to Eclipse Theory Games, the podcast where we bring you the latest in gaming news, indie reviews, and everything else under the sun. My name is Kendall, and I'm here with my co-host,
Tony, aka Davy Jones Crockpot.
I like that one. I only got that still on that one. That was pretty good. That's pretty good. Davy Jones Crockpot, best card dash you ever had. That's it. That sounds
Facts.
fire. That sounds
Facts.
fire.
Never ending.
But
All you can eat.
oh my God. But we are not here to talk about things that remind me of SpongeBob for whatever reason. We are here back again for episode 57 of Eclipse Theory Games. Man, we took a couple episodes to kind of talk about what's going on, from the gaming perspective and outside of it. So go back and check out some of our most recent episodes where we talk about the Fallout TV show. We even did one on Kendrick and Drake's beef, which we need to update, I guess. But
Yeah,
yeah, there's been some developments, but we'll get back to
maybe at
that.
the end. Yeah, maybe at the end.
Yeah. We'll see. You know what? We gotta make those off-topic episodes like a regular thing. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
love talking gaming, but yeah, that's fire. But yeah, no, we're back again to the gaming topics, and today we want to take another look back. We're gonna do another console retrospective. I know you guys appreciated those episodes. So today we're going to go with the PS1, which a console very, very near and dear to my heart, man. Can't speak highly enough on it, and I gotta try hard not to before we get started. Um, but before we actually get anything rolling, do you remember your scores from the
Yeah,
previous
I still
episode?
got it up. I was gonna go through the whole like rubric and all that shit anyway.
Perfect. Yeah. So
Um,
you can kind of knock that out real quick.
so yeah, we're doing console appearance, controllers, graphics. Actually, sorry, my bad. Console controllers, games, graphics, and then impact. Rating them each out of 10. The last two that we did were the Genesis and the Super Nintendo. I had a score of 39 for the Genesis and 47 for the Super Nintendo.
Yep. And for the Genesis, I had a 42, and I had a 46 for the Super Nintendo, which,
That's right. You had a higher score than everybody on the Genesis, I think.
yeah, which is crazy. Like I was not expecting that. But I mean, Genesis, shout out to the Sega Genesis. But today we're here to talk about the console that I have an interesting history with. When I got it, I probably told this story on content before, but when I got it, I wanted an N64. And my parents got me this little gray box, and I didn't know what the hell it was. And I was like, okay, Dad, I guess you can play game day on this. I'm gonna just go back to playing Mario. But when I finally picked it up, man, it became like the console that really brought me here. So shout out to the PS1 just to kind of start this off, man. When did your memories with the PS1 start? Just to kind of kick this off.
Ooh, that's probably I think the PlayStation 1 was the first console
Mm,
that that I kind of like there was a split there was like a split period, almost like a split timeline type shit in our house. Like we had a Nintendo that was like the home console. We had the Sega Genesis that was like the home console. The PS1 N64 era was where the split started. My dad had the PS1, I had the N64.
makes
And then
sense.
I was basically riding Nintendo out like all the way through, and he was riding the Sony shit out up until the PS4. But I think we
Wow.
got the PS1 N64 like right around the same time. I know I got the N64 for Christmas the year it came out.
Nice.
But yeah, no, the PS1 was like that was big in our house because that's where I like played Crash Bandicoot with my dad. Like we played Madden, Crash Bandicoot, and Doom. Like that was the
Mm,
top three. That was me and my dad's games. We was playing that shit like constantly. I matter of fact, I
yeah,
went over their house last month. We still have the passwords for Doom.
that's
This
awesome.
old ass notebook. Like it's just that thing's got to be 20 25 years old by now.
Yo, I love that.
But yeah, we still got all the pet level passwords for Doom.
That those little notebooks that you find, like just the grungiest paper that you'll ever see in your
Man,
life, that shit is
should be
special.
turning yellow for no reason.
Yes, just sitting there. Just why not? It's just stuff floating in the air that just turns paper yellow. I don't like that. But
Yeah.
nah, but I appreciate that. The PlayStation 1 was actually kind of a console that I shared with my dad also. I know I've definitely talked about this on content before, but watching my dad play Castlevania Symphony of the Night, which to this day blows my mind. Like that was a one of one experience. My dad played games, but he wasn't really diving deep into shit except Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Like, why you pick this game? Who told you?
Yeah,
You know
that's
what I mean?
one that would make me feel like he hardcore with it, but
Right. Like it there, man, it was there, man. He wanted my PS2 at one point. I was like, man, I'm sorry, the PS3 ain't backwards compatible. You know what I'm saying? I wish I
You
could.
got to hold off on this.
Yeah, yeah, but nah, that was a special console. I know for sure I've talked about Intelligence Cube because they had that on the PS Classics when they announced those. So I know we talked about that on that episode and how amazing that game is for no reason. If you haven't tried Intelligence Cube and you have like a PS5 or 4, try that little weird puzzle game. It's like it has the most epic music you'll ever hear in your life for no fucking reason. No reason at all. Um, but with that out the way, man, I guess it's time to go ahead and jump in. And as usual, we can kind of start with the console itself. You want to take your ranking first, man? Because I already got mine
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, man, this is like a two. I mean,
Mm,
it was Sony's first shot, but like you said, it's a gray box. You know,
yeah,
it's like old girl in Community, yellow hat, shirt, eh, you know,
man.
it's just there. Um,
Okay.
the the nostalgia comes from like opening it. You know what I mean? Like hitting that button to open it, just kind of watching that hinge, like just kind of lightly
Yeah.
pull it up. That's about it. But like the actual aesthetics of the console, I mean, it's a great box.
Listen, I appreciate your answer because this is going to be an immediate hard shift when it comes to mine because I'm giving
Oh,
it
you
at
about to
least
say
an eight.
nine?
I'm gonna give it an eight at least an eight because I love that old school retro, like it feels retro futuristic to me in a way that very little does. Like this is the dopest CD player ever made. You know what I mean? But fuck CD players. You know, at this point, like we was past that, very close to when the PS1 came out. But it's still the dopest CD player. Like
I held on to the CD player until I was like 19.
I feel it. Like CDs are a great way to play music. It should make sense. But nah, I hold the PS1 so dearly in my heart. The way that it pops open is fire. Like just the aesthetic just kind of speaks to me in a 90s way. You know, you seen how I rank these other consoles. You know, I appreciate the console aesthetic. Like even though it's old and rustic and bullshit looking, I love it. I appreciate the shapes and whatnot. But okay, so that's our first disagreement. I guess I'll start with the next category, which will be controllers. So
All right, so
I'm
hold
a
on. Here's the important
yeah.
thing. Because of the iterations of the DualShock and kind of how they've evolved throughout the years, we're grading this based on like the feel then, not how we
Mm,
feel about it now.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Hmm. You throw me for a loop there, honestly. Because
Because I knew like it sucks now. You know,
yeah, yeah, yeah. So okay, I'm gonna be real. I'm gonna just give it a 10. I'm gonna just straight up give it a 10. I feel like the PlayStation created the form factor that we're still using. Like when it comes to just the way it's set up, even though you know the offset sticks is the whole thing, which we can talk about when we get to Xbox episodes. But PlayStation set the archetype like that we still go off of. Like PlayStation controller is still basically the same thing. That's why we still talking about how it feels now and like you know all that stuff. Um, and the fact that they introduced dual sticks, I got to give them a 10. That's like an impact thing for me. Like that's where I'm going with it.
see which because I can't go 10. I understand where you're going with the 10 because of the
Mhm.
DualShock, but see them OG joints before the dual sticks.
The ones that felt
That's the ones
literally
I'm grading on.
empty.
Yeah, that's the ones
Yeah.
I'm grading on. Them things felt like they was like zero point 0.1 ounces.
Yes.
Like it's a seven.
Okay.
I'll say six. It's a six.
Okay.
Um, I'll
Okay.
give it a six, and I would like to give it like a two or a three, but like you said, the impact as far as like how we conceive controllers, because like you got to throw Nintendo out the controller discussion. You got to throw Nintendo out of it because they're always doing their own fucking thing
Right.
and
Right.
have been. But the way that we conceive controllers now between Sony and Xbox, and I mean, even when you look at like PC controllers and the way that they design those, it's
Mhm.
all based on what we got with the PS1. And then
Fair.
eventually when they brought the DualShock 1 out, which I think was like what, 2 years after the PS1 drop, something like
Yeah,
that,
it
maybe a year
wasn't
or two.
far after. It wasn't far after.
Um, so yeah, then you get into like the innovating on the dual sticks and stuff like that. But yeah, the OG, paper light control, that's a six.
That's fair. That's fair. And I appreciate ranking the pack in. I'm trying to keep my rankings consistent. I gave the Super Nintendo an 8 out of 10. And if I gave that an 8 out of 10, I got to give Sony a 10 out of 10. You know what I mean? Like, we going off of the time that they came out based on that.
Yeah.
So next category is games, and this is where things always get interesting. This is where the conversation kind of opens up. Again, I'm gonna let you start. We can kind of go back and forth. So I'll let you start with the games.
Games is a 10.
Games is the same. We can just
That's
move
a
on.
10. That's a fucking 10. I mean,
Yeah,
you got Crash 1 through 3, Siphon Filter, Metal Gear Solid. Like
man.
it's just, I mean, it's just Gran
Listen,
Turismo. Like you talking about some of the OGs of the OGs. Like,
yeah, this
nah,
is
man.
one of
I mean, the
those
Small Soldiers game was fucking fire, dog.
for no reason. The tiny version of fucking Twisted Metal was fire. Like the playground
Dog,
one.
we had
Like,
Twisted Metal, man. Like that shit was fucking incredible. Did you
amazing.
play? I probably didn't. Because my dad had this game, and I to this day I couldn't tell you where the fuck the game came from. I swear to God, it just popped up in his drawer one day. It's called D.
No, I
It's
don't think
a
I did.
horror game. So
But
it's
why
like
does that
a
sound familiar?
it's like an interactive horror movie game, and
Interesting.
you have to beat it in 2 hours. You can't save. Like there's you gotta sit down 2 hours. That's how long you got to beat this game. Because I think the girl like shows up and or like she's looking for her father, and when she shows up, it like the I think it's a house, but it turns into a castle, like just right
Mm,
there.
this is
And like for
got
anybody that
information.
wants to look it up and kind of look at the walkthrough, because again, 2 hour game is real quick. I'm not gonna spoil it because I do think it's actually kind of a dope story and premise, but it was such a like weird game. That was my first horror game because
That's
this
really
was
dope.
pre Resident Evil.
Yeah, yeah, which we still also got to talk about a little bit, but
Yeah,
that's cool. I'm looking this up. Like the cover is so unfamiliar to me, but so like
dog, that
weirdly
cover
intriguing.
scared the shit out of
Yeah,
me as a kid.
I feel like I'm at the start of a horror movie where you're like, "Yo, did you hear about this game back in the day?" I'm like, "What? I've never heard of this in my life."
Yeah,
And I start playing it, and then like
and now
two
you're
weeks
about to
from,
die.
yeah, like you find me inside the game in a week. Like
Yeah.
that's where we at right now. But nah, this is the type of thing I mean. Like PS1 era is when things started to open up and the way that you had hidden gems just all over the place. I felt like with the N64, if a good game came out, you knew that that game was good. Like we were talking about it, it was the hotness of the week, or it was like a weird game. The exception being like stuff like Sin and Punishment, because like nobody talks
'Cause
about.
nobody played that shit until the Wii came out.
Yeah, yeah, like there are some hidden gems there. But PlayStation 1 felt like the game where, oh, this game, only recent released in Japan, or you might not have ever heard of it. Again, it's not the first time it's happened, but it felt like it had just a treasure trove of that.
Yeah.
Um, like Legend of Dragoon, that's an RPG that I hold near and dear to my heart, just the same as I hold like many Final Fantasies. Most people probably have never heard of Legend of Dragoon. Again, it's on PlayStation Plus. Check it out if
Look
you like old school RPGs. That's a fire ass game. But yeah,
Medieval was fire.
man,
The Atari collect they had an Atari collection on that shit that my dad bought. Flames.
that's
NBA
all,
in the Zone 2, the early
bro,
Maddens, Game Day. Like,
endless shit.
nigga, this
Bro,
shit
the
was
Space Jam game was fire. Like
I did not
the,
play the Space Champion.
I had the Space Jam game. Now, was it fire or was it a Space Jam game and I was a kid?
I
You
was about to
know,
say that's the
but
question. I mean, this is a
but
movie game.
it was fun enough that I have these fond ass memories of it. You know what I mean? Like that game was dope. You running around the locker room trying to get like the water bottles because it's Mike's secret juice and shit. Dope game, fire. But
The rapper. Crash
man,
Team
don't even get
Racing.
me started on Prepper the
Nigga,
Rapper,
there's
bro.
so much shit. Like I don't
It's
I honestly think game wise the PS1 might be horribly underrated because
mm,
we only focus on the big shit. We only focus on Crash, Metal Gear Solid, Gran Turismo.
yeah,
Like even Siphon Filter don't even get like the love it deserves. It got lost in that like Metal Gear Solid, Splinter Cell, like jumble. But there were like three
100%.
games.
Yeah, and like nobody talks about it really.
I still like I used to go to my boy lived down the street from my parents. I would go to his house and play Siphon Filter. And the one thing I always remembered the most about Siphon Filter was the weird way he ran because it was like this weird lean, the way he would run, like they were animating it, like they were trying to make his body turn, but they
bro,
didn't really kind of nail it right.
stuff like that
But
sticks with you. It sticks with you for sure.
man,
Nah, the dopest thing, listen, I don't even know how to approach this topic without giving you mild spoilers. I'm gonna give you mild spoilers for a PS4 game that's not getting a sequel. And that game is Days Gone. All right. Mild spoilers for Days Gone. I haven't even played it, but I found out that it takes place in the Siphon Filter universe. And
say
that's
what?
my yeah, like that. Apparently that
Oh,
game
I'm
is
about to
tied in the
finish
Siphon.
that.
Bro, like, bro, I This is my favorite type of Easter egg in the world. Like just like
I
tie this shit
enjoyed the
together.
game. Like that game should get a sequel, and I kind of hate the reception it got.
Yeah.
That game was actually dope.
I see. I
I
still haven't tried it, but I'm planning to because
I put
we
in
were
like
just burnt
12
out.
hours. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that because this was like mid-pandemic and shit
Right.
when
And
it
mid,
dropped.
like this was right after Last of Us Part Two, if I'm not mistaken, like
Yeah,
right around that time. So
yeah.
yeah.
They didn't stand a chance.
Yeah, but the fact that it like has that tie and stuff like that makes it very interesting. And that's how you harken back to those classics that maybe didn't get as much love. Another one, Parasite Eve. People do not talk about
Yes,
Parasite Eve, bro.
yes.
Dope shit. That was
Again,
Square
swallowed
Enix.
up by Resident Evil.
Yes, but Square Enix made up Resident Evil. That's fucking crazy. Like that's so weird and different, and you know that's going to be kind of weird and fire. So
Nigga, we didn't even Spiral the Dragon,
there's so many we didn't touch on. Like Spyro was my
Oddworld.
Tony Hawk. You know what I mean? Like it's
You,
crazy.
you know how much time me and my dad put in the Oddworld Abe's Odyssey? Like
Yep. And I think we talked about that
hours,
recently too. There, like,
hours, bro.
and that's a game series I definitely missed out on because Abe scared the fuck out of me. I'm not gonna lie. It was just the
That's the
mouth
stitches. Yeah, it
being,
was the
yeah.
stitches. That
It,
yeah. It
man,
wasn't for kids. It wasn't for most kids.
man. I'm talking about like, man. I think he's in the hallway. I'm scared to open the door. Type scared. Like
What is the
I
other
don't.
thing? Is his voice like, yo, 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 yo.
It
Like that's
was.
fucking weird, man. He's possessing people and shit.
Oh my god. They nightmare
Farting.
fuel. It,
There's a fart button.
which appeals to me. But I missed out. But yeah, that's definitely a 10 for me as well. And I think we can talk about graphics in that same breath. Graphics are very, very weird and very interesting conversation around this time in particular, because it's hard to look back fondly at polygonal graphics from that
Oh
that
yeah,
era.
boxy motherfuckers.
Yeah, yeah, things get a little bit get a little tricky to rank. I'm gonna give graphics a 7. Um, because I think that they pushed. You got to remember that this did take a leap forward. Like we was on sprites before this, it's
Right.
straight up. So PS1 was very important in that sense. Now, do things hold up? No, not always. I'll say some things do. Symphony of the Night, we talked about before how it doesn't need a remake because it looks so good in its like original form. Like those sprites look so fucking crazy because PS1 was able to do all that. Um, but yeah, I would have to give it about a 7 in my eyes. I feel like that's a pretty fair assessment.
Yeah, I'm about there with it too. 7. I think Castlevania and games with that art style are a rare exception because that art style doesn't age. But then you also have 2D games like Oddworld, where it looks like shit now, even though it's 2D. They tried
Yeah,
to do like the weird 3D modeling within it, and it just didn't work. So like it's really muddy. Like if you go look at it, it's just muddy as fuck. And I think the
yeah,
games that kind of suffered the most looking back are fighting games because everybody's got a fucking box head and like everybody's fighting like this. This is their hand. They don't open. They just this is it right here.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but I mean,
That's
yeah, like
facts.
looking back, even then, like in the moment, I would still probably go 7. I mean, you're talking about 32-bit. I mean, this was the next step up. We got 3D,
Hmm.
but you know, it looked good kind of in the moment. But it's the same thing with every console generation where it's like the early shit you look at and go, God damn, this is
Yeah,
nice. But then you get to the end of it and you're like, oh, this is what it could have been.
right.
And by the time you're at the
Exactly.
end of the console generation, you looking at the beginning of it, go like, damn, y'all couldn't do better then.
Yeah, yeah, because like some of the cutscenes you see in late games, like Final Fantasy 9, look pretty crazy. Like for a PS1, you'd
Yeah,
be surprised. So I agree with that. And I feel like we're gonna be on a similar page as far as impact goes as well. Because I'm giving that a 10 myself. Like this console. Let's talk about the history of the PS1 for just a second. So we know how it goes if you're hip to games. If you're not hip to games,
all right, hold on before we do this because I do want to point out, James, get well soon, but this is why I wanted to do the
yes.
64 first because you
Okay.
can't talk about one
Yeah.
without the other.
Yeah,
But
but
you know, like we're here,
I
so
think it's
but
good
yeah,
that
go ahead.
we did Super Nintendo first, so we can kind of
Yeah,
progress
right,
naturally. So
right.
yeah. But yeah, James get well soon. James kind of under the weather. He'll be
Yeah, but
back
we're
when
waiting
we.
on him for the N64 episode.
Yes, sir.
We
Yes,
need
sir.
that. We need that.
So the PlayStation 1 was announced as a partnership with Nintendo, if you don't know. I think this was like literally at an E3, they went on stage and announced it. Or not, or it could have been rumors, and by the time E3 came, the next part of the story happens, which is Nintendo pulls out. They decide they don't want to go with Sony. They go with Philips instead, and they make what's called the Philips CDI.
CDI.
If you've never heard of the Philips CDI, it's where the worst Zelda games are. It's where like the shitty Mario games are. It's where Excuse Me, Princess, that whole thing. That's where that comes from. That's what they chose instead of the PlayStation. And Sony was like, okay, bet. And they went off and they made their own console out of what they were going to partner with Nintendo and create. And it became Nintendo's biggest competitor. So, how can
Now,
it
from what
impact?
I've read, saying Nintendo pulled out is fair, but there is some stories that I've read that say that like Sony kind of tried to stab in the back a little bit.
Oh, yeah, it was
Um,
business, you know.
yeah, they was trying to get some money that they really didn't wasn't supposed to be getting, and they wanted to control profits. It's kind of some messy shit. But essentially, yeah, Nintendo pulled
Yeah,
out, and went with the entirely wrong direction. I mean, I guess you could say business wise, it kind of worked out because like Sony was going to try and fuck them if this is true.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but man, that CDI was a fucking flop. I don't even think it
yeah.
dropped.
Man, I'm not even sure like how far it
Let me
went
look that up.
because
I don't even think that dropped.
yeah, because I don't know. I mean, because people had those Zelda games. They dropped two of them. Like I don't know what did they drop three of them?
Oh
There's
no, it does exist. I'm looking at
yeah. There was
actual.
at least a few. There was at least seven people who owned this thing. You know what I mean? Like bar minimum. Um, but that story kind of sets in stone, or like kind of starts off the journey of the PS1. So even before it like existed, it was making an impact on the industry. And then it came out, and understand that at the time it was Sega versus Nintendo. Like this was pre-Dreamcast. Sega was still doing this thing. We had high hopes for Sega. Sony came through and just fucked everything up. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, if I could give this higher than a 10, I would, because Sony's still down. Like they started this off in the 90s and just have been dominant ever since. If you really look at the numbers, like even the PS3 outsold the 360, which again, I don't want to talk about other consoles, spoilers, but yeah, I'm gonna give this a 10.
yeah. It's a 10. I mean, just on that story alone, when you think about what if everybody had been like on the same page all the way through, like what this shit could have been. I mean, we're probably talking about Monopoly.
Yeah,
Like
it was.
there's a point where they might have forced a split and we might have gotten this anyway, but the stranglehold these motherfuckers would have had on gaming. Because if you
Yep.
look at like what they did, like you said, with the split and completely got Sega the fuck out of here.
Yeah,
What Nintendo and
100%.
Sony would have done with the tech. Now the only question is what Nintendo would have done content wise. Because they're still in the era of
Yeah,
like we don't want to get too mature,
yeah,
and so it's like where that battle would have came from. Like I almost feel like this split was inevitable. It was just a matter of how it went down. It
yeah. The
was
way it went
either
down.
Sony was trying to get some money and they kind of went behind their backs, or
Mhm.
Nintendo didn't want to do the mature shit, or it was a monopoly. But either way, this split was happening, which would make the impact of fucking 20 because now you're talking about like branching paths and shit.
Yeah, right. Like this could have really changed a lot of shit. Like if you just think about one game, Final Fantasy VII was a whole divisive moment in games because they jumped from Nintendo to PlayStation. That wouldn't have happened. They would have had both consoles processing power, basically. Like who knows what would have happened if those two things merged together? Will we get the same game? Will we get a better game? Would it be more censored? Because like you said, it was like a different vibe over there in Nintendo,
We definitely
especially at
wouldn't
the
have gotten
time.
Cloud in a dress.
Bro, we wouldn't have got certain lines that we got. Like, yeah, not, a lot of that shit. Bear might not exist. Like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's
It's
crazy.
and especially when you consider that Final Fantasy VII is kind of the game. Like that kicked the whole shit off.
Yeah, like
That
it.
was the PlayStation moment. And if that shit don't happen, we probably sitting here and one China policy. We this motherfucker just one console.
Now, mind you, you can say that about a few things. You can give that to Resident Evil One too. That was a big PlayStation moment. You could definitely give that to Metal Gear Solid. Solid Metal Gear Solid was kind of like a definitive game on it, but that just speaks again to the power of this game, this console, and the games that it had. So, absolutely a 10 out of 10 as far as impact goes. So I guess we can go ahead and tally up the scores, man. You want to give like a quick recap of what you got? Well, actually, I'll let you tally it up. I don't know if you added it up already.
Oh no,
Because
I
I got
already
all.
got it. I already
Okay,
got it.
cool, cool. Yeah. So if you want to run down your scores,
All right, so console appearance is a 3, controllers is a 6, graphics is a 7, games and impact a 10. I've got a 36 for the PlayStation 1, which is my lowest scoring console.
which is crazy. Like, but I get it. That three is just damn
That
that
three, yeah,
motherfucker.
that three killed it. But man, it's a gray box. Like,
I get it. I get it. It's got that big old circle though. That circle looks cool. But so yeah, I gave console an 8, controller a 10, games a 10, graphics a 7, and impact a 10 for a total of 45 out of 50, which makes it second on my list, right under the Super Nintendo, one point underneath. So it's gonna be a tight race. I'm actually most looking forward to like putting these all up next to each other and like tearing all the consoles, seeing how they fall, because that's gonna be
yeah,
an interesting combo for sure.
because I didn't go into this expecting the PS1 to have the lowest score of my three at
Man,
all.
man, I almost retroactively changed one of my scores. Like, nah, I need to bump you up because like you gotta put them numbers up, bro. Them numbers ain't doing.
That's why I said when I said three, I'm like, I make sure I said that earlier. Like,
Like you gotta say that with your whole chest. So you putting that
yeah,
three on there. But nah, I'm loving it honestly, and we'll get James's thoughts because he wasn't on the Super Nintendo episode either. I want to kind of get James to give us his ranking so we can put all three of our numbers together and like really tally this up at the end. So we'll get his breakdown, his summary of it once he gets better, once he rests up and whatnot. But yeah, man, I think that does it for that discussion. And I say we got a couple minutes left to just kind of break down what the fuck is happening in hip hop right now because shit's kind of going crazy. Um, so
so
yeah,
here's like because I'm losing interest in the Drake Ross part of it.
yeah.
Now it just seemed like they in on it and they just cracking jokes on each other like they
I was
homies.
about to say, out of all, it's funny because Drake and Ross are going at it the craziest, saying the most shit about each other, and they're the two people that I expect to be cool after this the most, like
Yeah,
out of
like yeah,
everyone.
they just seem like they clowning each other. Like Drake got in and said, "Man, put them milkers away." Like that's some shit you say to your homie. Like
Right, right.
like if I popped on this motherfucker with my shirt off and you said that, I'm like, I'm just gonna laugh it off.
Facts.
You know what I'm
And the
saying?
fact that they beefing over who's richer, like they also like it's not even,
Yeah,
the
this
the
ain't no
the best man shit
animosity.
on it.
Yeah,
Come on.
yeah. This that part of it don't even see real. So I'm like, I'm halfway checked out. My issue is with what has always been with Drake stands. Because I try not to, you know me, I try not to hold people's fan bases against them. I really
Right,
do, with the
right.
exception of a particular rapper who happened to be used to be affiliated with Drake. Her fans are crazy, but um, his fans are like weird in a way that is off-putting as fuck. Like we getting out here. All Kendrick said on that verse was "nigga boom."
Yeah, I don't know why
I'm
we
like,
honed in on that.
why are we doing this? Why
Yeah.
like why? Because you're not
There
even
was
like you're not even being facetious about it. You're dead fucking serious. Show me a
right.
bar that was fire on the verse other than "nigga boom." Really? That's
I
what we
mean,
doing?
well, I mean, so I agree with you there. And you know me, I'm a fan of both artists. I'm a fan of everybody involved. You know what I mean? And I'm not on no give peace a chance shit when it comes to Drake and Kendrick. Like these two dudes have not
No,
liked each other for
no.
fucking years.
I need raps.
This is where you get it out your system. Like that's how I feel about this beef. So I'm with you. I'm enjoying the whole thing, but it's hard
Oh,
to
I don't
enjoy
even need
it.
peace. I don't need peace out the fan bases. I just need them to stop acting
No,
like
no,
they
no.
about to get
Yeah, I
some
feel
dat.
you.
Like
Yeah, like you're not part of this. But like you don't
yeah,
need
that's what I'm
to.
saying.
You don't need to defend this man. Like I'm not. I mean, I'm more of a Kendrick fan. I'm not about to go to bat for this nigga Kendrick. I might make my case about him being a whatever winning the beef or being a better artist or whatever the case may be. But I'm not finna like argue you down or diminish none of Drake's accomplishments. Dude is the biggest rapper in the game. But it will be on Twitter beefing with people, like arguing with people about like who
Yeah, man.
sold more and shit. Like
Nigga, like this is not what hip hop. I don't give a fuck who
I'm
sold more,
telling you,
who
man.
rapping better.
Bro, I was talking to
Like
my cousin about this shit on some look how they massacre my boys. Just talking about the
dog.
entire industry, bro. Like
Just
it's
the way
crazy.
niggas talk about it is fucking annoying. Well, his last
Listen,
album went double wood. Who gives a fuck?
you right
You know,
there where I bro.
this is my proof. This is my proof of how little I give a fuck about that shit. That Simba verse where he went at Cole, flames. Ate that nigga up.
Hey,
Ate that nigga up. And Cole ain't gonna go back at him because lower tier rap. It's like a Jay-Z thing. Like, I'm not okay. You
Right.
got it. You
Right.
know, even though Simba can rap his fucking ass off.
You can, and it doesn't matter. Like, and honestly, why are you even chiming in? You know what I mean? So that
And that's the
becomes
other
a
thing. Like you just y'all niggas saw a little bit of weakness, what you perceive to be weakness, and said, let's
yeah.
try and
Let me.
eat on
Oh
this.
yeah, fuck this guy. That's man. This is my whole issue. I'm all the way with you on so many points here, but
The verse
just
was fire though. The
niggas is
verse was
doing a lot.
like
Nigga, I'm not mad at the
he
verse.
didn't have he didn't have to jump into it, but the verse was fucking fire.
if it's aspiring bars, then okay, I guess. But we need this. We need this. We have a hater culture right now. Like it's very weird, and that's the
Shout
other
out to
thing.
Drew
Of
McIntyre,
man,
hater of the year. About to
listen,
be 2 years running.
that's a respectable run. But I will tell you this, man. It's a weird time because it's hard to tell what the fuck is even happening. Like it's one of them things where like if you dig into like it's hard to take a side from me because you do got a bunch of motherfuckers all being like, yo, fuck this dude. And that's crazy. Like you getting jumped right
It's
now.
fucking weird.
But also, what did he do to make them niggas that mad? Like, you know what I mean? Like
Nigga.
and I
Like
mean,
that's the other thing. Like this is the one. I think this is the one scenario where, as a people, we can say, okay, so what did he do?
right,
Like in other
right.
scenarios, you got shut. You can't say
You can,
that shit. You
yeah.
can't say, like hey, you
Yeah,
get hit.
facts.
What did he do? No, you can't
Nah,
ask that question.
nah.
The motherfucker got hit. In this scenario, like, yo, what did he do
Like
that made
it's some
every nigga say, "Oh, it's hunting season"?
I mean, people that have made peace, and I swore this motherfucker was cool with the weekend, bro. I swore that they had a whole
I
thing.
didn't know they was beefing.
Yeah, they
But that's because
beefed
I don't
and
listen to
made
Weekend. But
peace.
still, I didn't know they had beef.
Beef and made peace and all that shit. And like now it's up apparently. Like it's crazy. And either I'm gonna look at the weekend crazy for that, or I'm gonna be like, oh, Drake must have been moving crazy, which is easy to assume, right?
I think
Like
both can be true.
I think both can be true.
I
Like I'm
think
telling
both
you,
can be
bro,
true in this one.
it's hard. I think Drake is moving within the industry and doing industry moves. Like you hear a lot of podcasts talking about like they assume that he might have some publishing knowledge or or some rights on people's labels or some pull in the industry or whatever. He might be moving like that. Like he might be throwing the money around. I mean, throw your weight around in your verses all the time. You know what I mean?
So
So
here's my thing on if he's doing niggas like Diddy, yeah. Okay. We all have a legitimate case.
right.
If he pulling a Michael Jackson buying the Beatles catalog, I mean, hey, man, like Mike told Paul, it's business.
You know what I mean? Like
You know, like, I
but
can't be
see,
mad
like
at the motherfucker.
But when what throws me off and what I'm hearing about what makes me lean toward that one side of that dude who shall not be named, uh, is the French Montana shit that came out with Rick Ross. I don't know how much you can believe of Rick Ross talking about a nigga in the middle of a beef,
Yeah,
but if you sent the cease and desist off some like take my feature off your song type shit, then it shows this is a freaking
there's something
collaborator.
like there's a
Yeah,
reason 20 niggas then jumped out the woodwork.
right, right.
Speaking of Mike buying people shit, you will talk about motherfucker petty. Remember when M dropped Just Lose It and he did the video and he was dressed like Mike and put his hair on fire and shit?
Yes, I
Mike got
do.
so mad he bought Eminem's catalog.
I remember. I forgot about this, but I do remember that.
He bought his dog.
That's unspeakable. That's an unspeakable flex, like legitimately.
Oh, you gonna make fun of me? All right, I own all your shit. Every time that bullshit play, I'm getting some bread.
Yep. Yep. And people,
What's the
honest
wild
to
is I
God,
didn't see it. I didn't see it much after that.
it's straight up. Like, but I mean, honestly, people do think that might be the case with Drake, owning some people's publishing and shit like that. But I ain't need to hear nor there. I want to hear bars.
I want bars. Now, the one thing I will say is that the issue I have with people and how they look at this beef is I guess people call it a microwave society. Oh, Kendrick ain't respond in a week. It
Yeah.
must have lost. Nah, man, nah, that's not how this works. That's not
Just
how this works.
just remember how they was talking about Drake when he hadn't responded. How we were talking about Drake when he hadn't responded. I think there's a tweet you can find like, yeah, he probably ain't gonna come back at him. Like from us.
But that's what my
So
thing was. I didn't think he was going to come back because of Pusha. I thought
right.
he had like been scarred. So like my thing with beef is always like, yo, you come back when you come back. I mean, motherfuckers went like a year or two in between disses sometimes. Like that's
Yeah,
just how that shit works.
and that's how
But
Kendrick about to play it. I think
yeah, I mean, the nigga will go 5 years without an album. So like,
straight up.
it's whatever with that. But yeah, man, I'm looking at like all of this shit. Like, yo, if he responds, great. I just really thought that Push had like scarred him because like
I,
Duppy was incredible.
yeah, that was a really
That shit
good
was
diss.
heat.
That was a good ass diss. Like,
And then Push came through with that fucking sledgehammer. I mean, that's
and if you didn't have info on the nigga, like it would have been a different story. Like you had
yeah,
you exposed this man. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Like this wasn't
Like
open information or nothing. Like
yeah,
he was out here like, and then that's the other thing that I had issue with Drake stands is that people they start calling him Pusha T, but spell TTEA. And like, oh, he pillow talking. Drake just literally did the same shit on his disc, and y'all was slapping ass about it.
yeah. I mean, as far as I know, that's what his whole problem with Future is. Like, you know what I mean? I mean,
Nigga,
honestly, if you pull a lot of the beats back, like pull the curtains
I mean,
back
it's all
on
behind a woman.
it's
Yeah,
most a lot of it. This motherfucker is beefing with Ja Morant over, like you know
nigga
what I mean?
took a
Like,
shot at Ja. I'm like, yo, what are we
but
doing?
honestly, his beef was more like, yeah, I know you
Ja's
mad
15
too,
years
like,
younger
yeah,
than you, dog. What are
bro.
we
That's
doing?
yeah, which is why I think it was a dismissive ass bar. Like he's like, I ain't even tripping about you. I'm just, here's
He,
another one.
he ain't even give Kendrick or like really ain't give Kendrick no heat.
He came at Kendrick on some album shit, like on some
Yeah,
like,
but he was like, yeah, you wear a size 7.
yeah, you giving Top
I'm
Dog
like,
50%. You know what I mean?
yeah, but I'm like, nigga, you signed a Birdman and you got Jay Prince over here. Like,
That
like
was
nigga,
Pusha C's whole like thing. Like it's crazy. I mean, it's whatever.
it's,
Like
it's a
it's
bunch of motherfuckers rapping about shit that they do.
yeah,
And
yeah.
you know what? I'm not here to be the hypocrite, man. Go ahead and get these fucking bars off. Just make it good.
Facts. That's listen. At the end of the day, that's what I'm looking for. I need good songs. I need bars, and I need more hilarious artwork because all the
I
artwork
need
for all the
dog.
singles has
I
been.
look. I think the Kendrick shots on that disc were weak, and that's
Mm,
kind of the way I graded the whole song because I only care to hear Kendrick and Drake's back and forth because I know Cole ain't got no beef with Kendrick, so that's whatever. I don't care about these other motherfuckers beefing with Drake. That's whatever.
mm,
So I'm like, okay, yeah, you said the motherfucker short. Funny, I love short jokes. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air guy. I love short jokes.
right.
Shoe sizes or whatever. But when they showed the cover this morning, I cried laughing because that shit
Yeah,
is funny.
that's
I just,
hilarious.
I don't care. Like I said, I think that area of the disc was kind of weak, but the cover is hilarious.
Tie that shit together, bro. That was the highlight bar, which is saying something. It's not the strongest beef, but I think motherfuckers ain't talking crazy yet. Like
Nah, it's,
Kendrick might
it's
have,
jabs. Like
yeah,
infrared was a jab.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
the same shit, man. It's jabs, and it's somebody gonna drop the haymaker, and then we're gonna see what's really good.
Exactly. So we will definitely be checking in more on this. We're gonna make this our like ending segment, like give a weekly news
Oh yeah.
update on this beef. So this is some interesting shit. Hip hop and gaming is very interesting right now. So definitely let us know, man, what you guys think of not only the PS1 but of this whole situation brewing. We want to hear all your thoughts. Leave a comment below, man. Make sure you like and subscribe the video so you can
Tick
keep up
tick
with everything that
tick.
we're making. We need that. We need that absolutely, man. You can't bring that up. You can't bring that up, bro.
that,
You do
that nigga is a demon.
that was crazy. That was a crazy moment. Like the Breakfast Club interview after that, where he's like, "It's no too far." Like that dude was he wanted problems. He
Hey,
wanted
look,
smoke.
he brought his wife's name up. It's
Yep.
gloves is
It,
off after that.
it, it was over. And the craziest thing is he talked about the diss that Drake did in that song. So that wasn't something he was sitting on, but he was sitting on the info.
Yeah.
He recorded that
Yeah,
after
infrared
that.
was on the album. That was
Yeah,
that was made for the album.
man.
He wrote Adidon
Yeah, he jumped in that
and
booth. Crazy. Let us know what you thought of the story of Adonai and everything else that we talked about today, man. We definitely want to hear from you guys. Definitely hit us up on Twitter, man, at Eclipse Theory, and hit us up on Instagram at Eclipse.theory because we love hearing from you guys. We love making this a show for you.
like and
But
subscribe on YouTube.
please do, man. We want to get that engagement, man. We definitely appreciate everybody who's subscribed so far. Stay tuned. We got some cool things coming up soon. So, but until then, I am Kendall. This is Tony, and make sure you keep gaming.